So in this video, I'm going to be talking about, can you determine someone's sexual orientation or sexual identity or something like that from astrology? Now, the answer to that question requires a bit of explanation, and it requires a bit of explaining how I do astrology and do readings in general. So, to start off, basically, okay, I'm being guided in kind of two different directions here. Number one, I connect via my own higher self to get my own guidance to do this work. Okay, so I have done the spiritual work and continue to do the daily spiritual work to maintain higher level connections to my own higher self. And my higher self, basically, whatever I connect to is vetted through my own higher self. So the information comes from my own higher self and from my own guides as well. Okay, so everything that I do here is intuitively, and through my guidance on astrology. If you want to know the specifics on what I have been guided, what I have been taught, so I learned a lot of astrology, and then my guidance was, okay, now that you know the basic foundations or what the human understanding of it is, we're going to tell you to basically throw half of that away, and we're going to basically guide you to what is legitimate and what isn't. Okay, so that is how I have gone about this. Now, if you want to know more specifically on my guidance on astrology, etc., you can head over to my website, mysticalmark.ca. The link, What is Astrology, at the top, explains more in depth on this. I'm not going to explain it all here. There is also this idea that, and of course, in terms of, before I move on, in terms of how to maybe connect to your higher self and do this, if that's something that you're interested in, I offer a free way to do this on my website. It's called Modal Works. It's something that was guided to me to be able to enable these higher vibrational connections so that anybody can do this. Okay, I'm not gatekeeping anything here. I'm allowing this information out. Now, with that being said, what they want to start off with in terms of this, before we even get to the astrology, is a reminder that we are all non-physical beings having a physical experience. Okay, so we choose the character that we're going to play in this life. It is like playing a video game, okay? You choose the character you want to play in the game. Hence, we chose the person that we wanted to be in this game of life. Now, what that comes down to, and what they're guiding me to, is in order to be a certain character or play a certain thing, you have to come in at a certain time, right? There's certain timings to things, certain energies, etc. So you come in at a specific time where the energy is conducive to creating the character that you want to play. Hence, this astrology and my guidance on astrology. I'll just kind of say a basic point of it here. It is an energetic template conducive to certain things, and it is how that energy is used. Okay, we have the ability to use this energy in the way that we want, use these energetic cycles in creative ways to build and create what we want. Astrology doesn't just happen to us, or this transit is happening, so this must happen. No, that's not it. It's how can we utilize these energetic frequencies, these energetic cycles, to our advantage to build and create and move through life. Okay, that is one key point here. So yes, in essence, in some ways, okay, so the people that say, you know, we're born this way, yes, you are born gay, you are born whatever, because that's the character you created. However, your soul, your true being, chose to have that experience before you incarnated, okay? And they're kind of wanting me to say that also throws this idea of those religious beliefs that you can't be gay just right out the window, because you, from your spiritual version of yourself, literally can create this and is allowed to create this version of you to be born that way and do this. There's a lot more. Anyways, I'm not going to get into the topic of religion. Okay, that is a whole other thing that I'm not going to touch on right now. However, they wanted to bring that up because there's a lot of misconceptions in terms of how our reality works. And I have received a lot of guidance and stuff on like this idea of like quantum entanglement or quantum physics, and that's how this functions or that functions, and that true functions of the universe is really what spirituality is. And it's just this understanding and how we've been misguided in a lot of ways, or gatekept. They're saying it's mostly been gatekept. There's people that do know and understand a lot of this information that do exist on this planet, but the good ones either were bye-byed when trying to let it out, or they're either being paid off or it's being locked up, because if we knew our true power, certain people and things wouldn't be in control anymore. But anyway, so if you're wondering what the chart is on my screen here, this is my birth chart, okay? And I'm going to use this as an example to explain what they're wanting to describe astrologically here. And everything that I've said is leading up to, so don't think that I'm just blabbing on about whatever. This is all important because it's how, or what my guidance is on astrology and how this works. Okay, so I'm guessing we can just kind of, they're saying, okay, you can jump into your chart now, we can get going with this. The reason why, I'm going to say this now, the reason why I'm using my chart is because I do this intuitively. When you do it this way, you have access to the soul's information on why they chose certain things, why they came here. It's very deep, intimate information on that person because you're not just guessing with your mind. Okay, you're actually legitimately tuning in to what this stuff really is. And so consent is required when doing these kinds of readings. And in fact, any kind of intuitive reading, whether it's astrology, a card reading, anything like that, requires explicit consent from that person or their higher self or their soul for that information to come through. Okay, sometimes if you're doing a reading on like a public figure, if you're guided to or given the green light, yeah, you could do that. But for the most part, that does not happen. Consent is required. So yes, that can lead to, again, relating to the legitimacy of certain things that are seen out there. Okay, consent is required for certain readings and things to occur. That being said, some people are given consent to speak on certain people, or public figures or whatever. However, for the most part, and when it comes to most people in the collective, that is not the case. Consent is required in order to read on somebody else. Okay, and that is an ethical boundary that I'm not going to cross. And even if I attempted to, they wouldn't tell me. Okay, I wouldn't get the guidance that I need, okay, to be able to do the reading properly, to be able to get that guidance, to get that information regarding the reading as well. I would just be blocked or just not be told. Okay, so that is why I'm using my chart here. If anybody else wants to volunteer for other examples and I do another video on this, then sure, leave your information in the comments below and say you provide consent for me to do this. It's not guaranteed that I will do a video on this, but it is something that I could potentially do. But like I said, consent is required. Okay, which is why we're using my chart, because I'm doing this and I consent. So does my higher self. Okay, so again, back to the whole gay thing and sexual orientation thing. So there's a couple things that I was guided to point out from my chart specifically. One is my Venus. So you can see here I have Venus at 15 degrees of Leo in the 11th house. Key here is the 11th, well actually both Leo and the 11th house. Venus represents our relationships, and in this case they're pointing me to specifically towards romantic relationships. They're wanting me to mention now as well regarding the house system. They have guided me to use Placidus. They're saying the house system matters, and using a house system like Placidus, it gives you the accuracy. There's a timing aspect to astrology based on the location on the planet which you were born in, because our vantage point is from Earth. The point on Earth, and that specific point in space-time, means something regarding how the frequencies are affected. Look, we're getting into the realm of like the whole quantum physics thing again that they're talking about, and that's just understand that from this point, okay? that matters. They're also saying that if you were to be on another planet, that you would have to do astrology different based off of that point within space-time on that specific planet. Okay, because this is a reflection of other greater energies and cycles and frequencies of the universe. It's all based on how the universe functions through certain cycles, energies, etc. Frequency. They're saying frequency. Okay, so now that I've said that, they're also wanting me to point out my guidance on the house system. It is basically like a fine-tuning dial, right? That idea of that space-time location, that location in point in space and time to fine-tune certain energies within your chart, or in creating something well incarnate or whatever, because the houses obviously move a cycle throughout the day and then are different sizes or whatever based on location, etc., etc. So they're saying, in this case, the 11th house, and they're bringing it back to my guidance on the houses, is that the house represents the sign that it reflects. So, for example, 11th house is the 11th, reflects the 11th sign, which is Aquarius. So it carries the energy or the qualities of Aquarius, but it is not Aquarius. They're saying it is not the traditional house system, like you would say in like whole sign or anything like that. They're saying that was extremely misguided, and there was misinformation and people trying to put they were looking for knowledge in places where there was one. It's like they were on this search to find something, and they were just kind of, almost what I get is like making stuff up along the way. There's a lot of what happened in that time period that we don't have full records for understanding historically on. They said there obviously is stuff remaining, and that's where we get this certain information from. But they're saying that things were specifically gate kept, and that lies were told to certain people that were interested in this to confuse the public so that they wouldn't recognize their own power, so that they would see the 8th house as this or this house as that. So when things happen, it must be this, or don't do this at this time because this, and it could just confuse the hell out of everyone, put fear into certain people when certain energies were happening, etc. They're saying the universe... Okay, the universe isn't going to do that. And there's certain aspects, etc., in astrology that we think are bad, like squares or oppositions, that really aren't. Okay, the use of fear by certain people or institutions is a form of control, because when you put someone into that state, they'll do anything to get out of it. And so when they're in a state of fear, you can easily offer them any solution or anything to say, oh, this is what'll get you out of it. And then that forces them into that decision, and that allows you to then control that person. Okay, so they use fear as a form of control, as well as misinformation and confusion to try to confuse people and not allow them to understand this, or the appropriate tools that they can use to enhance their own life or empower themselves, etc. Because if you understood your own power, the world wouldn't be what it is today. Okay, it would be better. Anyway, back, and they're saying this is all relating to the understanding of this, because in order to explain these points in my chart, they have to explain how I do astrology at the foundation of all of this in order for people to fully understand the point that I'm trying to make in this video. Okay, and the point that there's been things that have been misguided, and they're also saying that anybody can connect and get this information and do this. The tool that I provide and that I have is called Modal Works. It's on my website, mysticalmark.ca, if you want to see it. Okay, but again, it's free, so I'm not selling anything here. But they're also saying that it was provided to me as a tool to provide for other people as well if they want to do this. No gatekeeping, no nothing. To put it out there for the ability that everybody has to be able to do this kind of work and to understand and to tune into this information on their own, to connect their own higher self, their own guides, etc., to be able to do this in understanding. Okay? Okay, now we can jump back into this. Venus, as it relates to relationships. So they're saying the 11th house is important here as it relates to Aquarius and this idea of being unconventional. So I was born in the mid 1980s, so at that time it was very unconventional to be gay, okay? Because there was still, there was still a lot of rampant racism. There was still a lot of misogynistic behavior, hatred towards women. Women didn't make the same amount of money as men. There was a lot of this stuff that still existed at that time, where we've made extreme progress on in the past 40 years. But at that time, and they're also bringing this up as a point that they're using this idea that it was unconventional because at the time it was, okay? And because I was coming into the world at that time, in order to create this aspect of myself, it needed to come into an energy where that could come through as something that was unconventional. They're saying being gay actually really isn't unconventional. There's homosexuality that exists in a lot of other places of the universe. It is not something that's bad or a sin or anything like that. It is just a way that you can exist, be, and experience, okay? And the fact that there's the physicality are the two men, for example, are representing two masculine energies, despite the fact that we have both divine masculine and divine feminine within us, and we also may be of different reflections of that, regardless of what our physical body is. But they're saying the reflection of that in the universe, like tends to attract like, so same frequency. So masculine would tend towards more masculine, feminine towards, etc. If we're dealing with it on just a frequency basis. But that doesn't mean that opposites can't attract or opposites can't come together, because there's a different... It's like getting into like electromagnetics, and there's this, even the same frequency, how it may repel, but that creates a force, or how there's like that different attraction with it. It's this whole thing based on frequency and vibration and like theories of electromagnetics and all this stuff, but how it relates to those frequencies, etc. But what they're trying to say is that it doesn't matter that you're gay, bi, lesbian, whatever. It's just those things, those concepts can relate scientifically to other mechanisms that exist in the universe that are already pre-existing. It's just a reflection of that in a completely different way when we consider it sexuality or sexual orientation. Okay, so it's part of still the function of the universe in a lot of ways. So nothing is inherently bad in any way in doing that. They're saying you need to understand more understand more of the functions of the universe to truly understand how all of this works and how this can come about. Okay? So that's why they're bringing up the timing thing in terms of the unconventionality of that time when I was born. As in, let's say someone today where it's more accepted, it may not have an Aquarian vibe. There may be another type of energy. I'm being drawn to maybe something like Scorpio as it relates to sexuality in that way, that there could be an aspect or a house placement or something along those lines that would create that for a person that would be born into a world that was more accepting of that kind of thing when their soul chose to have that experience. Okay, so they're just bringing that up, that timing and coming in at that time required the certain energies in that way to occur in that way. And that also doesn't mean that this has to be for everyone that is gay that is incarnating at that time, okay? It is the creative use of that energy from that time frame in terms of doing this. And this can go for any other time. It's the creative use of that energy in doing this in whatever way. Now back to specifically for me, Venus, they're specifically focusing on the romantic relationship aspect of Venus for me now. They're saying in Leo, it relates to, because Leo is a very playful, positive, very strong masculine energy. And it's relating to that masculinity, the romantic relationships with those that are masculine. Okay, that's what it relates to. Venus and Leo with those that are masculine in the 11th house, which is an unconventional thing. Okay, there's a uniqueness, an unconventional, breaking the mold kind of a thing that I prefer, that the relationships are with men, but I was born male. Okay, they're saying it kind of may not make total complete sense, but you have to remember that there's like a creative use of how this is coming through. They also want to bring up, now we're moving on to, as you can see in my chart, the cusp of the 8th house here is in Aries. 8th house as it relates to Scorpio, dealing with sex, sexuality, etc. On this cusp in Aries, there's this very they're saying a desire for masculine desire, a desire for masculine sexually. That's sexual energy, that's sexuality part of it. That 8th house energy, even though there's no planets here or anything like that, this is still a valid thing that exists within the chart that can play a role. They're saying it's not just about the planetary placements, the aspects or whatever. The house placements do play a role. Why it's a fine-tuning dial, including like this cusp here as it begins at this point in Aries. So we're dealing, obviously there's Aries and a relation of Taurus with the 8th house, although more so than 9th house. They're saying more so like 9th house cusp stuff. But the cusp of the 8th house here, carrying this initial Aries vibe, is that's this drive. And they're saying that the Aries energy also carries that sexual energy as well, that Mars aspect of it, that drive to take action sexually in a certain way. But in this sense, they're pulling it towards the masculine energy that Aries is. Aries is very like masculine energy in its basic form, kind of an energy. And so having this 8th house cusp in this way is like that sexual attraction towards men, or that sexual desire, as related to Scorpio, desire, sexuality, towards men. Usually when I burp like that, it's like there we want you to pay attention to this. So yeah, that sexual desire, the strong sexuality towards men, masculine, male energy, etc. Okay, now they're drawing me to the other point here as well, that I have Venus in trine to Uranus in Sagittarius in the 3rd house. They're saying that this Uranian energy is relating to that uniqueness or unconventionality of it, but as it more specifically relates to my type. So they're saying that this trine, and yes, you can define your type with astrology as well, as you incarnate apparently, as we're figuring out now, as I had a specific desire for a certain type of person that I wanted to be with. But we're not going to get into that here, as in that's too much of an intimate thing that I don't want to, well, they're saying that I don't, but it's not relevant for this video right now. But they're also making it a point to say, this is why consent is required when doing these kinds of things, because this is personal, deeply intimate personal information that was the choice my soul made in coming here in this way, and that consent is required to allow this to come out in this way, right? As in, that's how this energy is used. Okay, and even so, I'm doing this in an unconventional way, but there's that in my chart too. But let's not get to that at this point. So this trine to Uranus, like I said, that unconventionality, but that's relating to my type. My type being relating to the fact that it's in Sagittarius and in the 3rd house. We won't get into that in this video though. Okay, but there's an unconventionality related to that, an unconventional type of relationship that exists in this way. And those energies were being used in that way to kind of, make me gay, if you wish to put it that way. But in essence, I was born or created that way because that was the intent through this energy to create that character of me that I wanted to play in this lifetime. Okay, so that is basically the gist of that, and going over my chart. What they're saying now is that when it comes to that, the point that they want to make is not everyone with Venus and Leo in the 11th house is going to be gay or want to have relationships with men. Okay, and same thing with that trine to Uranus. They're saying Venus aspects to Uranus don't always mean that it's going to be an unconventional relationship. I read on someone's chart once, and they're saying that it's okay for me to say this, where they had Venus conjunct Uranus. It had nothing to do with his relationships at all. What it had to do was his unconventional likes or desires for different kinds of foods. He liked weird food combinations or food things that people would always like, harass him about and stuff. Okay, but that unconventionality was chosen through that Venus conjunction to Uranus. It had nothing to do with his relationships or anything like that. I'm getting that they're just saying it had nothing to do with that. It had more to do with that sensual side of Venus, that more Taurus side of Venus, in terms of that unconventionality that existed with that. Okay, so that is an example of how it can be used in a completely different way. Okay, and of course, Venus and Leo could be a multitude of different things. You're combining different energies here with Venus, Leo, 11th house, where there's multiple different creative expressions in terms of how that can go through. And they're saying that is not the only reason why I chose that. There was more for that to come through. And they're saying because typically when I'm in a relationship, it's kind of like I like to show somebody off. They're visible. They're I like to be open about certain things. I don't like closeted gay men because they piss me off. I understand that people, some people can't come out or whatever, but it annoys me to be in a relationship with someone like that because I want to express and be who I am and show them off. Be like, this is my man, okay? That kind of a thing. That is that aspect of that Venus and Leo for me. Okay, and again, they're just trying to say, I'm not trying to say that I hate closeted gay men or something like that. It's just for me, when I'm in a relationship with someone, they need to be out. I need to be with someone who's able to be who they are, who's free and open and allowing of that. Okay, because that is part of my relationship dynamic that I came here to encounter, to live with, to do. Okay. So that is a part of that energy. And also with the 8th house Aries cusp thing, they're also saying that with that, that can be different for other people too, right? That could just be a very strong desire to take action, to have sex. Like that could be more like fuckboy energy, or this desire to have multiple sexual partners, or this desire for just sexuality, sexual encounters in general. Like I said, it doesn't have to be specifically desire towards men. That Aries energy taking action towards a desire or sex, sexuality, etc. Okay, it doesn't have to be specifically geared towards homosexuality or anything like that. Okay, I'm being called to kind of end it here. So I hope this was, it provided a certain amount of information. So basically, to go back to the original question, can you use astrology to determine somebody's sexual orientation or sexual identity? The answer is yes. However, it is a bit more complicated because of the creative use of this energy. They're bringing me back to the example of the timing for my incarnation and how it relates to the 11th house of unconventionality. That had to happen because of the specific time in which I came, or I incarnated, in order to create that. It's going to be different for different people based off of their circumstances, their scenarios, what other parts of their life they're incarnating into, etc. It is the creative use of this energy. Okay, yes, you can, but it's how it is used. It could be like almost any aspect could relate to you being gay. Okay, but you have to tune in to why specifically that was chosen and why specifically you came into that. Why specifically are you gay? Is it just to have that experience? Is it to be with a specific person? Is it could be anything. Is it to show an example of true unconditional love? Is it to just break the mold of the world you live in? They're bringing me to the point of which some people may be asking, well, if we choose to be gay, why did I come into a strict Catholic family? Or why was I born Muslim? Or why was all this stuff happened? And the thing is you knew that before coming, but some of that, and what I'm getting a sense of, a lot of that is to break free, almost break the chains of those things, to be a living, breathing example of the absurdity of a lot of certain beliefs and misunderstandings that have existed on this planet, because you are a living, breathing, physical example. They're saying, yes, that can lead, they're saying it's not supposed, they're saying that there is a risk. You understand the risk when incarnating here into those energies, okay? That there may be a risk to you being that way. But they're saying the outcome or the overall advantage to the world, the globalness, that just living that example as a whole is overall more advantageous than something negative that could be occurring to you. You recognize, okay, from a human level, you might be like, what the fuck? But what they're saying is you recognize that from a soul level. You understand that this life is finite, that this incarnation is finite, that you coming here and you choosing a specific purpose in whatever way, that's just for this specific short amount of time and that's it. You know exactly what you are getting into before you incarnate here. So when you understand that part of it, your soul understands that and can understand that, yeah, sometimes shit happens, okay? But you also understand the difficulty of it before coming into it as well. Yes, shit can still happen, shit can still go wrong, etc. But you do understand the difficulty, and you usually have some part of a plan to try to get you out of it. And sometimes when shit hits the fan, when you're incarnated, your higher self can try to manifest things for you to work you, to help you, to get you out of that situation. There's reminding me that your guides as well. You may have had soul contracts before incarnating to help you with certain situations, where certain things in your life may help to awaken you to who you are, safe people to be around, to come out to help you to move to different areas of life and life, etc. But a lot of it, and they're saying that a lot of it too is just wanting to live from that perspective, wanting to have that experience. The soul wants to have that experience. Maybe you want to have that experience while being in a specific culture or another specific environment, or have that experience in whatever other way. And that relates to how it can differ in somebody else's chart as to why they're gay. Maybe they did want to provide some kind of breakthrough culturally, So maybe that's a big thing to pay attention then. That they're saying that's a big main point, is breaking the cultural misconceptions and misunderstandings of homosexuality or other, LGBTQ plus identities, etc. So they're just saying that like anything, there's infinite creativity within the universe, and they're saying just because you have one planet in one sign or one house with this certain aspect isn't going to always mean the same definition every single time. The word that I'm getting is absurd. That's absurd, okay? Because of the creative use of this energy. Our minds are extremely limited in understanding the true vastness of the universe. Just look at the vastness of the universe. There's billions, trillions of stars, which means there's billions, trillions of star systems, of planets that carry life. There's billions and trillions of other beings, of other ways to exist. Okay? The universe is infinitely creative. To say that just because you have Venus and Leo, it's only going to mean this and that is it, the words that I'm honestly getting is that's fucking stupid. Okay? Because that is not it. There is so much of an expansive knowledge or understanding beyond what we've basically been gatekept into knowing, is what they're trying to say. We have been in a way manipulated and messed with in our understandings of a lot of things, and that they're pushing again. The universe is infinitely creative. How this will come about in your astrology chart is based off of that infinite creativity. So there has to be a distinct understanding from a soul level of why you came. They're saying the best way to understand your astrology chart is to do it intuitively, to understand it in that way, because it's the only way you're going to get the actual soul knowledge as to why you chose to come in at that time, at that specific energy, to have that specific chart, to be the specific person or version of you. That's the only way you're going to understand that. The mind, yes, you may get bits and pieces and nuggets of it from the mind, but you're not going to be able to fully understand the true expansiveness and vastness of that knowledge and the full overall picture of your lifetime, why you came here, etc.? Is it just to have a fun lifetime, to just experience a certain perspective? Do you have a specific purpose or mission? Did you want to experience a certain thing? Do you have a specific set of goals you want to try to achieve in this life? There's multiple different ways in which this can go. Okay, it is not just one simple way of understanding. There isn't just one thing astrologically that every gay person or every lesbian or every bisexual person has that's going to be like, yep, they're bi, yep, they're gay. That's not how it works at all. Because the reason you are gay, or the reason you chose to have that experience in that way for whatever reason, plays an immense role in why you are gay or lesbian or bi or whatever. And because of that specific reason, the circumstances or the energies or the creative way that has to come about is going to be different for each person. They're reminding me that there's 8 or 9 billion people on this planet, which means that there are 8 or 9 billion different ways to experience reality or to exist just on this planet alone, just in the human race alone. Imagine the expanse of creative diversity and expansion that exists throughout the entire rest of the universe. Trying to state it as one simple definition, or there's one thing that can represent you being gay, again, the word that I'm getting again is absurd. That is absurd. What I'm getting now is infinite creativity. Infinite creativity based on these energetic cycles that exist. You can get whatever you want in whatever energetic cycle. It's just going to come in its own unique way based off of that energetic cycle. Okay, there's no set way to have something. There's certain timings, yes, like you came in at a certain time because you wanted to be more specific. However, if I want to go to the store right now, but it's raining outside, I can just grab an umbrella and wear a rain jacket to go to the store. It doesn't have to be sunny. Do you understand what I'm getting at? The astrology is like the weather. Just because a certain aspect or whatever is happening, that's not stopping you from finding a creative solution to still getting what you want. That's the message with this. It's infinite creativity. It's the creative understanding of why those specific aspects were chosen or how that they are used. It boils down to everything that I've been guided with astrology boils down to one thing. It is how it is used. It is how these energies are used. And there's a unique creativity that exists in the universe to do this, to create this. And this relates to manifestation and everything. So to answer the question in maybe more simple terms, can you determine it? Yes, but you need to intuitively tune in to find that answer, because the universe is infinitely creative, and you are infinitely creative. Your soul is infinitely creative. And to create this version of you required certain aspects or certain things that aren't going to be the same as somebody else. Okay, so if anybody has any questions or anything like that, please leave them in the comments below and I will get to them when I can. If you're looking for a personal reading or any other information on me, you can head over to my website, mysticalmark.ca, where all the information is there for you. And all those links are in the description below as well. So thank you all for watching. Take care. Bye.